chords. This is partially because 2 chords is enough to create a variety of different atmospheres, and partially because throwing a lot of different chords at the listener with no discernible function to guide them through can make it hard to follow and frustrating to listen to. This is why jazz fusion will never be mainstream again.
Figured some things out, got some things cleaned up with how
But any 2 chords, no matter how out there they sound together, can become normalized to anybody, no matter how musically uneducated, with enough repetition. That's not to say you won't find any complete onslaughts of non-functional harmony in this soundtrack. Yasunori Mitsuda, the composer for Chrono Trigger, loves to use parallel minor 7th chords to create dissonance, like in Boss Battle Theme 2. At first, it seems a little all over the place, but having the chords follow a very clear descent by semitone pattern helps anchor the listener a little bit. This descending minor chord idea is actually used quite a bit throughout the soundtrack, like in Undersea Palace's B section. It's still a non-functional progression, of course. Try and think of what chord could come next after either of these sections that would sound resolved. In functional harmony, this is usually very easy to do. Even if a song never actually lets us hear the tonic, it's almost always easy enough to hear in our mind what the tonic would be. In non-functional harmony, this isn't really the case. Notice also the way that the minor chords jump up by minor thirds in the first bar. This is another very common chordal relationship in the Chrono Trigger soundtrack. For example, check out the B section to Black Omen. This is cool and all, but the really impressive thing about the soundtrack is the way Mitsuda mixes the functional with the non-functional. The game's title track is the perfect example of this. Take a look at this opening progression.
That's just like a best practices so that you don't have to worry about, oh, but we're also trading derivative, margin, and I like plot my own tokens, right?
If you take a bird's eye view of the harmony, it's easy enough to dismiss that minor 6 chord. It's weird, sure, but it's just chromatically approaching the flat 6-5 cadence, which is very normal, even if the 5 chord is usually a dominant. When listening to it though, these chords move very slowly, and if you don't know where the piece is going to end up, the first 2 chords will definitely disorient you. It's such a genius composition. We get this bold, impressionistic color with the A minor to F sharp minor, then the chromatic move down to F disorients us even further before the E minor sets our feet back on the ground again. With the E minor moving to the A minor for the A section, we're more aware of what's going on, and we're clearly in the key of A minor. Now, when we hear that F sharp minor, we'll know to expect a descent down to F next. So what does Mitsuda do? He repeats the A minor F sharp minor move, playing with our expectations.
TX index, census, off. Looks like we just run through everything, history of the year, and some change, testing, protocol development.
Playing with the listener's expectations is one of the key components of writing functional harmony, and it's what makes a lot of music so fun to listen to. But in isolation, an A minor to F sharp minor to A minor would not be considered functional in any sense. So Mitsuda is creating harmony that functions but out of non-functional parts. Another great example of this is in the B section to Wings That Cross Time. Again, from a bird's eye view, it looks like an easy write-off as a chromatic approach to a normal cadence, but the amount of time we sit on each chord and the deliberate accenting of the cross relations between our F minor and B Lydian scales definitely gives this progression a touch of non-functional color. Compare and contrast this move to some of our previous examples. Like A Strange Happening, these 2 chords are a tritone apart, which sounds a little jarring. But the mere 2-note contrast between these 2 chords, or rather the scales that these chords are based on, makes the transition smoother, more like what we saw in Secret of the Forest. A lot of the time in progressions like these, the melody will specifically target common tones found between the two chords to even out the sound. This is where pentatonic scales can come in extremely useful, as they're already a powerful melodic tool in one key, but the limited number of notes allows one to fit into multiple contrasting keys or modes. Let's take our first example, Secret of the Forest. Compare the two chords. The first, as we've already discussed, is based off of the G-flat Lydian scale, and the second is based off of the F minor scale. Now, let's take out the notes that don't fit into both scales, in this case, the G-flat and G natural. Now, we never actually hear a D or D-flat over an F minor chord in this tune, so let's take that out too. What we're left with is an A-flat pentatonic scale. Writing a melody using the scale would likely result in a great singable melody that seamlessly smooths over the transition from one tonality to the next. Great!
So when you see the green text, that's a valid transactions parameters
Except, Mitsuda deliberately doesn't do this. In fact, the majority of his melodies in the soundtrack emphasize the contrast between his non-functional chords by accenting the notes that don't fit nicely into both parent scales.
Oh, because of the KYC thing. That's fine. Really, it's an attestation. It's not.
This really makes the harmony stand out, and it definitely gives the soundtrack a unique flavor, but it can sound a little jarring at times, so it's not something I would always recommend doing. For Chrono Trigger though, it definitely works, and it's a powerful mood-setting tool. Well, that's the video. Thanks for watching! If you have any questions about non-functional harmony or anything else, please feel free to leave a comment below or tweet me at 8-Bit Music Theory. Special thanks to my gracious and patient patrons for supporting me in this endeavor, and thank you to everyone who's been liking and sharing and subscribing to my videos so far. It's really amazing to read all the ridiculously nice comments you guys leave, and it really inspires me to make the best videos I can make, so I just wanted to say thanks. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
All right, 380. 383. So the problem with the UTXO is that it's not smart the way that you can make the account-based tokens smart with whatever logics to invalidate the trade. So if you make a bum trade, there's bad params, whatever, it just doesn't happen, right? You are out the gas of what you spend to put it on the blockchain, the miner fee. It's like Ethereum in that sense, but not in the other good senses that you want. So yeah, so I'm gonna like basically fail this at that point. Yeah, okay. Well, to save time, I'm not a show off. To save time, let's just fucking pardon me, that's the third one. It's just, I don't need ChatGPT to do it. It's like my programming, like I'm way more productive, but it's like some of my programming skills from like 10 years ago when I taught myself have atrophied because I'm like, what if like things that are really trivial to do. whether it's failed or not, you're gonna. But wait, this should actually be invalidity, but whatever. This will just prevent the program from failing. Well, there we go. Yeah. Okay. Why don't I put that in validity also, just to make it documents, and then that's there to catch whatever might slip through. And I believe it is in validity, so I'm a little curious what happened with that. Insufficient channel. Well, yeah, this should have not even proceeded to inside validate and the insufficient tokens, invalid sats expected. That's okay. So, oh, it just doesn't invalidate it because if even if there's weird params, I want you to like get whatever there is, right? I don't want you to like completely lose the Litecoin. So I made these more fail resistant in that case. But if there's no channel at all, so like here in this case, it would be nothing because that commit was invalid, right? Because of your the TL part of it was invalid because there's no attestation on that address. This is what I kind of. Oh, because also this is based on property ID 4, which is similarly constrained. Is why that would not have worked. Well, that's compliance for you. Oh, that's a token to token trade. Right. And then so this was the commit. No, this is the UTXO trade. Yeah. So for whatever reason, it's just not there. Yeah, I guess that ought to do it. Or maybe I'd already. That's a little perplexing to me. No returning for property data. Okay, so this is maybe an issue that's more broad about synthetic currency. This is the commit. This is why. Um, well, in the early stages, I have some flexibility in fixing bugs before this is like broadly distributed, and I can just do a new update, release the fixes, you get the new code hash and that activation checkpoint. I have some bullets here. It's not all or nothing. Um, but when it comes to UTXO trades, there's a certain degree of irreversibility in that because this is a protocol on top of another protocol. Rather, it's a meta protocol rather than being fully integrated, rather than being based on a new opcode that's been USA after or hard forked in, right? Which is where we'd like to go in order to create the destiny that Litecoin deserves, and possibly Bitcoin, by example. That's a harder sell, but you need momentum to even really have a chance, right? Like OpsCTV didn't still has hardcore people who want to USAF it, but it's you never had like a commercial application, like oh DeFi man, like we could have an OpsCTV DeFi app like years ago. It didn't happen. So chicken and egg problem. but there's a clear, like, you buy the chicken and then you have eggs and then you sell the eggs and then you buy more chickens. It's like it's not a paradox. Um, More of a cold start problem. Oh, because none of those mints, because they're based on four, which is the TLI vest or TLI itself, and those are restricted. Uh, None of those transactions would have been legit, and therefore just never existed. Okay. Fine. Okay, so we've pontificated on this enough. Let's give it another crack. It never existed. This is like one of those movies. This is like Back to the Future, and he's like all of his siblings are disappearing from the photo, which if you think about it doesn't really make sense because it's not like you're either gonna hook up with Crispin Glover and have a family with him or you're not, right? So it's not like, oh, but now I have the hots for my son, Michael J. Fox, but I don't know he's my son, but he seems cool. So now I'm gonna have fewer children with Crispin Glover, but there's still, but maybe therefore he'll exist and I'll be able to have the hots for him, thus creating this time paradox. This is Back to the Future one, by the way. Anyways. Yeah. Um, let's go. Want some more Corona trigger deconstructions. Um,